Hey, let's see what we have going. Hey, everybody, welcome back to our live here today. Let's see who's here. We're gonna get going with a lot of good. Let me see something here. Okay, so we have some exciting things to share, some updates. Let me get my chat box going. Okay, hey everybody, welcome back. Trying to get the stream working properly. Hey, Free Palestine. Hey, King Essie, what's happening? Let's see. Let me welcome everybody in and we'll get, hi Colleen from Canada A. How are you? Let's see. Feeling better. Okay, I'm glad to hear that. We've got Madhu, welcome. Simon D in the house. Let's see. Okay, we're going to take some questions here, and I have some updates, and I actually have some thoughts on my mind from some of the clients that I've been working with. So let's see a couple questions here so I don't miss any. We've got Chris Cloud, meditations should I watch to help resensitize the pleasure pathways? It's a great question. Have I heard about obsessions with specific people? Yes, for sure. That is absolutely a really good question. So I might as well just dive in. Let's talk about the pleasure pathways for Chris Cloud. So in terms of meditations, you have to be careful because sometimes you can increase your alpha levels so much. Alpha's that medium speed that most people, we need to increase them to offset stress and anxiety, but if you find yourself in a position of dopamine dependency, your alpha might be high. So if you have the headband that I recommend, and I know Jamie's here, so Jamie, if you can put our link for the headband, that would be great. If your alpha is too high, which you can monitor using technology now, you need to be careful with the meditations. So I recommend Muse, which is the headband that Jamie's going to put the link. There's Mind Meditations, which basically is entry-level neurofeedback, which is the service that I provide at Dr. Trish Leigh and Company. There you can monitor your brain waves. You also can do other types of meditation. So Muse is the #1 meditation that I would recommend. Beyond that, you could use the Calm app, or you can really just use mindfulness meditation. There's a lot of really great science that shows 3 minutes of mindful breathing can create a brain reset. 13 minutes of mindfulness breathing can create an even deeper brain reset. So that's really important, which reminds me that I officially have my first copy of my book, which is literally amazing. I've been working so hard on this book, and this book tells the story of Sam, who is an actual friend of mine, and how I've gotten into porn addiction recovery. And there is a section on meditations in here, so talking about which meditations are beneficial and how to get started. So the new book is out. Please go to, Jamie can put the link, our Amazon link. Go to Amazon and pre-order it. It's coming out soon. This is the actual first copy ever that I just got in the mail the other day, and I think we put an unboxing video on my Instagram at Dr. Trish Leigh, so go check it out. Okay, so let me dig into, going back to Simon D's question now. Simon D's question is, can you get an obsession with a specific person, even going back to your teens? The answer is yes. And what happens is, first of all, that's dopamine related. When you were young and your brain found explicit matter, it got linked to a specific person. And so for a lot of people, it gets linked to a specific person, a specific act, a specific genre. This is where fetishes come from. So if you're linked to that person, they're your dopamine source right now. And that obsession is actually addiction. It's a dopamine dependency. So, if you keep going back, you're going back to your source for the highest amount of dopamine. So in the book, let me show you again, in Mind Over Explicit Matter, in here, I have strategies on, recognizing that as a dopamine source and being able to say goodbye to the need for that dopamine and from that source, and realize it's helped you in the past, but moving into the future, it's keeping you from the future that you want to create. So it's time to say goodbye to that performer and realize, they served you in the past, but not anymore. Okay, so let's see what Shashwata. Hi, Doc. I have a question. Masturbate after every 4, sometimes 5 days. Is it problematic? Yes, it is problematic. So science shows that if you are going back to compulsive masturbation, it goes back to that dopamine dependency and the habit that is feeding it. So the problem with it is that you now find yourself in a sexual relationship with yourself. It will make it much more difficult to be able to build healthy intimacy with a real world partner. It's the way that it goes. You're linking your brain to the screen and to yourself, and that's not what we want. We want you to link your brain to a healthy sexual relationship with a partner. So let me see here. I'm just hey, Diamond Mind, long time no see. I hope your vacation was well. That was a while ago. Hey, 24 Yeet Man, what's happening? Adam in the house. Okay, let's see. So is it important as the prevalence of or OCD after quitting? So having to work through having gone cold turkey. Now, this is a question from Adam. So let's just back up to cold turkey. That is the problem. When a person decides to quit anything, but especially a supernormal stimulus of explicit matter, cold turkey means that you're not going back to the source from which you are getting very high levels of dopamine with a brain that still needs high levels of dopamine. So the cold turkey part means you're going back and you need all that dopamine, but you're not giving your brain it. Likely you'll go through withdrawal symptoms. Likely when it comes to OCD, what happens is your brain is running fast and slow. I call it strained brain, wired and tired. And you need dopamine to offset the feeling of stress activation, fatigue, overwhelm. And you need it because your brain is in that mode of strained brain, but you're not giving it what it's self-medicated through the dopamine from explicit matter, and now you'll feel the OCD symptoms even more. Chris from Connecticut in the house. Okay, I'm glad to see you. Free blockers that are easy to set up and difficult to turn off. We recommend in my program, we recommend Relay and Covenant Eyes. It's not free, but it uses AI. Covenant Eyes is a very high level blocker. It's uses AI and it's really, really good. Okay, so Corey, I'm not totally sure. Like Peyronie's is different. It's a different mechanism. So, okay, let's see. Okay, so Aman, question is the difference from explicit matter all over the world different for different countries, different people? It's a matter of high level supernormal stimulus, dopamine dependency. So it basically is all the same. But of course, from individual to individual, that differs. And like I already said, your brain gets linked to whatever thing that you needed, and that's how it works out. Yep, James in the house. Hey, James, what's happening? Okay, Corey, Asperger's and dyslexia. So Peyronie's that you mentioned before is more of a physical issue. When it comes to dyslexia and spectrum disorders, that is absolutely a neurological disorder. It goes back to the brain performance pattern that your brain is using. So that is something that you can work on through neurological regulation. Diamond Mind. Okay, question is, what's the difference between compulsion and addiction? So in the book, let me show you it one more time. In the book, Mind Over Explicit Matter, which is coming out March 18th, pre-order it. Jamie's putting the link in. In this book, I outline the difference between compulsion and addiction. And many times I will use those terms back and forth, but basically this is the way that it works on a continuum. First, there's use. So you find explicit matter or even masturbation. You find it and you use it, but you're still in control of it. You're doing the thing because you want to. That's use. Use tips over because of dopamine dependency and the dopamine that you're getting into abuse. Now, abuse means you start to do it more. You start to do it in times that you shouldn't be. It can either be quantity or quality. So you're doing it often, you're doing it when you shouldn't, or you're ramping up in terms of clicking into new genres, kind of moving, looking for more dopamine. Remember, dopamine is going to give you a seeking and searching behavior. So you're moving in that direction. And that absolutely is use to abuse. Now, abuse moves over into compulsion. Compulsion means you're no longer doing it to feel good. You have to do it so you don't feel bad when you're not doing it. So this is when you are compelled, you have urges, you have cravings, you need high levels of dopamine to feel extra good in the moment, but unfortunately then it makes you feel bad again. You're in a dopamine deficit in your life, which pushes you back. That's the compulsion. Addiction is compulsion ramped up on steroids, where now there's more dopamine from the screen, even less dopamine in your life, and you're in the negative feedback loop or the downward spiral. And basically that's what happens. So compulsion leads to addiction, and it's basically a worsening of compulsion, but both compulsion and addiction are out of your control unless you create the upward spiral, you back out the downward spiral. Let's see. Okay, Amir, how are you? Can't stop watching completely. Like I said before, so going back to the idea of porn addiction or explicit matter in all forms in social media and etc., is about dopamine dependency. And the reason that happens is neurological dysregulation back when you found it. So basically your brain changed the way that it was performing to need more dopamine. And that neurological dysregulation creates strain brain and ultimately what I call drain brain. So essentially your brain changed the way that it is performing. There's brain dysfunction at the core of porn addiction and explicit matter. That's the thing that needs to be addressed. That's why the work that we do at Dr. Trish Leigh and Company is basically essential, because if you try to stop watching by yourself, there's still neurological dysfunction. There's still brain dysfunction, which is pushing you in that direction. So when we work with people, we can basically identify the brain dysregulation or dysfunction and then use advanced technology and neuroscience to back that pattern out so that you can have control over your behaviors, and it's behaviors of your mind and body. Okay, let's see what we got going here. Manpower Secrets, hi, how are you? Let's see. Okay, I'm not quite sure what that is. Oh, why is X filled with a lot of nudity and explicit content? It's a good question coming from Black Dragon Ninja. Actually, Twitter/X is currently in a lawsuit with some families, some John Does, for not taking down child sexual material. So, basically the platform's being called out for allowing those types of images to be circulated. And in that lawsuit, basically the lawyers are saying, these two young people have material of them being spread around and Twitter won't take it down, X won't take it down, and it's about the money. So they're using it's a statute in the law basically from 1996, before high-speed internet explicit matter was a thing, saying that, it's okay that they're using it in that way. So right now that is in the courts being looked at. And it's a very good question, but it comes down to the dollar bills, y'all, right? Okay, so tell me, what is a normal level? A normal leave the masturbation? I'm not totally sure. Normal level, ultimately, for me, I want you to not need masturbation and to be with a partner. Is it typical? Hi, Jay. How are you? Is it typical to be angry after quitting? Anger and irritability are the number one symptoms if you're not getting your fix of dopamine from Explicit Matter. And it goes back to your brain needs dopamine. It's used to getting it from your source. You're not giving it the dopamine, which leaves you in a dopamine deficit, which means more cortisol, more stress, more irritability, more anger. And as your brain levels out and calibrates back to the healthy levels, that goes away. But it's imperative not to go back. And that's the difficult part for people because of the withdrawal symptoms. Okay. It took a month, but the OCD attacks happen less. They do. And that's what I just said, Adam. Your brain will level off and you no longer, as long as your brain is regulating, you will no longer feel those symptoms. What happens for many people that I work with is, I always talk about it as your brain may unwire some, but it doesn't always rewire. So many of the people that I work with, they will need that push from technology and neuroscience because they're stuck in this holding pattern. They've unwired some, but they haven't rewired to optimal levels. And so they still suffer and struggle with the symptoms. Very good question, IV4. How do I know so much if I haven't struggled? Well, this book is written about my personal journey helping a friend of mine. And I honestly feel like, we all are put on this earth for a reason. And I have a lot of education. I have a lot of credentials. More importantly, I have a lot of knowledge and skills and experience in a whole range of different areas, which when porn fell into my lap, I honestly felt like all of that had culminated. And I basically instantaneously, because of having so much varied, educational experience and experiences, I was able to apply all the different things I knew from all the different categories to porn addiction. It all snapped into place. And I tell the story of it in Mind Over Explicit Matter that in that kind of flash of insight, I created a 28-page outline of what now is Porn-Free Brain Forever. But of course, if you know me, I don't stop there. So once this happened to me, I started to train under the top sex addiction recovery coaches. And I have for years, and I have a lot of training since then. But, understanding the neurological dysregulation at the core and how it makes the symptoms and how it makes you want to go back. Like, I just knew it. Plus, I was watching it with my own eyes. Okay. Deleted social media. Hi, Willie Survive. Yeah, it's called euphoric recall, Willie Survive. Is it normal to still think of some scenarios? Will they diminish over time? The answer is the same. As long as your brain is moving in the right direction, they will diminish and they'll go away completely. Most of the people I work with, they have that and it goes away. Let's see. Okay. Adam, you're welcome. I'm trying really hard to, put out content that helps people. So, I know that a lot of what I say might not be what you want to hear, but it's what you have to hear. So I'm down for the cause. Here I am. Addicted to porn and masturbation for a long 10 years, serious effects on marital life. ED is real. Yes. So thank you. Vanam Mabelli, sorry, I probably really messed up your name, but I really want people to be able to recognize that Explicit Matter is a problem and be able to do all the things to be able to get over it. And that's why I'm so psyched about this book. And I see Jamie put the link. It is so cool to be able to have this book going into the world because basically it is my program written out for you and you can start here, and hopefully for many people watching, this will be the end all and be all of it. All you'll need is the book. But if you need more, to go to Marcus's questions, how do I... Oh, Marcus, yes, you have utilized services. Welcome, my friend. If you need more help, reach out to Dr. Trish Leigh and company. You can do a consultation with Jamie. She can tell you all the things you need to know about your situation. And then what we do is we do a brain map. We can show you how your brain is either using strain brain or drain brain. Strain brain's wired and tired brain pattern. It leaves your brain needing dopamine. It's underlying stress activation. You feel angry, irritable, you feel anxious. You have a low tolerance for stress. That's what leads to the irritability and anger. Or you feel fatigued and overwhelmed, or both. You're driving on fumes and you need something to take the edge off for a while. Then what happens is your brain will tip into drain brain and you'll have ED. Now you can't get aroused unless you're using level 15 arousal, which drives you back to explicit matter. And whether you know it or not, it's destroying your relationship. It's destroying any hope you have of finding a partnership that works. And especially it'll create a lot of shame and guilt. I made a video this morning, so when you see it come out with this dress on, I made it saying like your formula's off. You just don't know it, or you don't want to look at it. And it's about your brain, your mind, your body, and your spirit. I call your spirit, your soul, that God-given spark inside of you, which goes back to, the question of how did I get into this? The spark was there. I wanted to help people with this, and I've never been more committed. So, you have to regulate your brain. Then your distorted mind changes. You don't have euphoric recall. One of my clients told me today that he can see his own patterns. He's like, I'm so much more self-aware. And he's like, only God knows why I'm more self-aware. And I joked with him. I'm like, I am not God, but I know why you're more self-aware. Because your strain brain was up here before and now it's down here, which means the fog is cleared. That's the brain dysregulation. When it clears, your mind works better. And when it clears, your brain works better. Your body works better. You now can be with your partner. Your sexual arousal dysfunction, your SAD remediates. It's important stuff. Okay. IV4, I already answered that question. Yeah, Corey, you're doing all the things, my friend. You really should back out of that because your brain's going to be struggling there, my friend. Does addiction cause intrusive thoughts? Quran, absolutely. The reason you get intrusive thoughts is because when you're in the middle of living your life, if your threshold for dopamine falls too low, your brain triggers you with an intrusive thought, an urge, a craving, and basically it's screaming at you, I need more dopamine. I'm used to having lots of dopamine. I'm falling too low. Get me some more dopamine fast. That's what an intrusive thought is. It's a dopamine hit that's internalized. That's why this whole situation is so challenging. Is there a role for intimacy between a couple while one party is recovering? From Brian Wellman. Hey, Brian. Great question. Yeah, I promote having healthy sexuality with your partner. I do not see a sex washout as necessary for most couples unless, here's the unless, well, let me back up for 1 second. Let me tell you why I don't see the sex washout being necessary is because what we're trying to do is decrease hypersexuality to healthy sexuality. The hypersexuality is related to the screen or masturbation. Those are the things that can't be done. And I've already said it here a few times. Your brain is linked for extra dopamine from the thing that you're used to getting it from, which isn't partnered sex for most people. So those are the things that have to be avoided. And I think of this more like an eating disorder. Like in an eating disorder, you don't stop eating. What you do is you stop eating junk and you start eating healthy. And there is a transition time when you are eating less sugar. So you have to learn how to not eat that stuff, but eat this instead. So it's a similar type of transition is you're no longer going to hypersexuality. You're letting that come down so that you can learn how to have healthy sexuality and intimacy with your partner. But the problem with that is if your brain really needs lots of dopamine still and the hypersexuality isn't coming down, then now you might just be putting that onto your partner, or you might not be able to turn off the hypersexuality. That's when the sex washout is a good idea, because basically you're learning to turn sexuality off altogether for a 90-day period. Very difficult for people with hypersexuality, but 90 days later, you've basically shaken most of that off. So now you can build intimacy with your partner. But for most people, I encourage them to keep being together, but you're going for the happiness trifecta. Don't forget that. You're going for, dopamine at healthier, lower levels. That's for pleasure. You have to teach your brain to get healthy levels of pleasure from a real a real world experience, not super high levels of pleasure from fantasy or unreality. That's the transition. You're also going for serotonin, joy, and engagement, and at the same time, oxytocin for connection. Happiness trifecta. Okay. Hey, Cyber LA Rudy, I'm glad you're here, my friend. You're welcome. Gregory, hi. I'm glad you're here. You were missing, so I'm glad you're back, my friend. Let's see. Are fantasizing, imaging, imagining having images is bad? It can be for many of the clients I work with. I can see in their brain graphs when we work together, all of my work is measurable on graphs and charts, and people will see a big spike in dopamine and I'll say, what is that? And a client will say, that's from fantasy, and it's just as big as a porn spike. So the answer is yes, it can be. Let's see. Yes, spin class is very healthy, Corey. I wish I did a spin class today, my friend. You know it, Gregory. Unwire, rewire, hardwire, my friend. Chris, what I can tell you is, Chris Cloud, question about specific meditations from Muse. I have 2 YouTube channels. Right now we're on Dr. Trish Leigh. I have another channel that is called Dr. Trish Leigh Brain Rewire. There's a whole playlist there teaching you how to use the headband, the Muse headband. It's called Brain Training 101. Go check it out, and you can see how to use the graphs and how to do the meditations. Okay, we have 2 minutes left, and I'm sticking to my time frames. Let's see what we got here. How to stop procrastination. That's a really good one. For a brain that has a lot of dopamine flowing, that'll be difficult. Drain brain, as I call it, means your brain is stuck in neutral. You know, that's why you feel numbed out. Artificial neutral. And if you're stuck in neutral, it's difficult to go. So that is at the core of that. Okay, nothing is ever real. Hello. 90 days clean, my friend. I'm very glad to hear that. That's totally awesome. Super great. Congratulations. Let's see. Yogendra, that's a really big one. Talking about rising incest porn. You know, it's about the dopamine, unfortunately, and people cross over into morally incongruent porn that they're watching because it hits something that I call, this will be our last question, and I actually want to say one more thing about it too. It hits something that I call the friction point. The friction point is basically anxiety and arousal. That's what really stimulates and soothes a brain that needs it. And I just saw on Netflix that, I haven't watched it, but that there is a show or series that came out about Jared, the subway guy, being a monster. So I said to the hubs, I'm like, why is he a monster? He pulls up the info, and it's because, I didn't even know this, he's been in prison for 8 years for child pornography and for acting out in the real world with children, which obviously is terrible. As a mom of 5 kids, I would never condone that. But, you know, Jared's a puppet, a marionette in that one, because if he started consuming child pornography, and we know he had compulsion to food, which is why he became the subway guy, losing all the weight, and his psychiatrist even says that when he lost all the weight and he no longer was eating all the food, that's when he pivoted into porn. That's when he got caught up in child porn. It's an escalation behavior to want to act that out in the real world. It's all about the dopamine. And it's about crossing the moral boundaries for higher levels of dopamine that your brain got linked to. And, you know, the porn industry is not dumb. That's why they have all these different genres, knowing that it's going to link a person's brain to it. But clearly it's terrible for humanity because it takes people away from the journey that they would have been creating if they didn't get caught up in all this stuff. That's why Jared's in prison now instead of living his best life. A lot of the people I work with, you know, they're not in prison, but they're at lower levels of this stuff, whether it be incest, which is terrible, or it's crossing over into other genres, or just what's considered more typical porn where you're consuming it instead of having a happy, healthy, happiness trifecta sex life with your partner. It takes you away from your purpose. So on that note, please pre-order Mind Over Explicit Matter. All of that is in this book. This is a book about a transformational journey, about one of my clients and my transformational journey too within the book, and about looking at where you are, being caught in the screen and having to go back to explicit matter, which derails you from getting the dopamine from real world sources. We're talking about a pleasure pathway reset here and using technology, because that's where we're at. We might as well use the advancements of neuroscience and technology to achieve the life that we want. And then to be able to get back on track and to rebuild your relationship, repair your relationship if there's rupture, become more productive and crank out your best work. Go enjoy your hobbies like you never have before. Most people find explicit matter when they're kids, which means your brain is never fully developed and you've never figured out who you want to be, capital S self. Now you have the opportunity. So please pre-order Mind Over Explicit Matter, because it's going to be a game changer for you. Okay, so what we're doing is we're not going to have lives at this time anymore, but what we are going to do is we're planning a big book launch live party at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, March 18th. So I'm going to send out some promo videos to let you know the time and what we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing a giveaway that night. I'm going to do some reading from the book and telling some behind the scenes stories about the different aspects of the book, but it's going to be fun. 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Plan on meeting me then, because I'm going to be doing a lot of book promo stuff until then. Okay. So thank you everybody for joining me. I totally appreciate it. Jamie put the link there, and I will see you Tuesday night, March 18th, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, book launch party together. Let's do it. All right. Until then, control your brain or it'll control you. I look forward to seeing you guys then. Take care.